Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Deb Morgan. Deb was here a while ago, actually 3 years ago, where we talked about fibromyalgia and addictions and how did the one lead to the other. And living with fibromyalgia, isn't it fun? We've done a few shows on that, and half the time it leaves you really exhausted and just simply hurting all over. So I do invite you to go back and listen to that show, because we share how we actually get through it. And in these times at the present moment, there's a lot of strain on us, there's a lot of tension on us. We don't know what's happening with COVID. How long is lockdown? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? And however much positivity you have in the front, we never know what's going to happen in the background. So it's a wait and see each day, and that can take its toll on you. But if she has fibromyalgia, but at one time she was an addict, not that kind of went up on the street and shot it up, but just came from her own personal journey, her personal pain, her personal chapter. And that chapter has gone into simply amazing women. Be inspired. And she's contributed that chapter in there. And it's about women who are simply amazing because of what they've overcome and how they've redirected their lives, just like Deb has. So, addiction and fibromyalgia and a number of other challenges we're going to be talking about today. And it's that finding that strength and that tenacity and that courage and those skills and those tools and that ability to just go through life and enjoy life as much as we can. And great that you are an author in this book, because you are simply an amazing woman, Deb. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, here we are.
Yes.
Everybody can see. And it's really, it's quite surreal when you finally become an author.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm an advocate for people with addictions or trying to get over them, or a mental health, which a lot of times goes with that.
Yes.
Or fibromyalgia. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny that those three things were the ones I ended up with, but there's got to be some sort of, correlation maybe. I don't know. I hurt my body, and then I was rough on it when I was young.
Yes.
And that's where it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It always hurts in the spots that you damage.
Right. Yes. So, the weakest points.
Exactly. So in this chapter, there's 13 women. We're all lead authors. It's my first publication, and so my next one will be an autobiography. Mm-hmm. That one will go into, childhood abuse, molestation, all the bad stuff, and how that led me up to starting to drink.
The addictive road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then eventually opiates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The thing is, we don't say that I'm going to be an addict. Or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No, it's, they always say God laughs at your plans. We go through journeys for reasons. And what we do to ourselves in inflicting upon ourselves with any form of addiction, it is trying to numb the pain. It's trying to make sense of something. It's the inability to deal with something that is hurting you. And very often we don't quite know what is hurting us. We know that the abuse is wrong, but at the same time, nobody seems to be taking responsibility for it. So is it me that's wrong here? Or is this just the norm, And so many questions go through one's life when you're actually in it, don't they?
Yes, the blame and guilt And, you know, when you're guilted, you know, your whole life, and my situation's a little different because I was adopted by my grandmother, raised by her, but yet still my mother is in the picture, still trying to, you know, stir the pot and make me the bad kid. And, you know, so you've got that consistently. And every time there was a problem, she swooped in, you know, with her bipolar self, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
And then I found out, you know, with my addiction, it made me kind of feel normal. A lot of people take pills or whatever because they think, oh, you know, finally I feel normal. You know, I actually feel like I think I should feel. And you don't, but you think you do. And then when you get into rehab and you find out through all the work that you're doing, eventually you get to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Especially with me, I was on Prozac. And so when they talked to me, they told me I had bipolar disorder. Well, I was only diagnosed with clinical depression. So I was like, what is that? You know, I mean, I had no idea. I was stupid. And, you know, when they told me about it and told me what it did, it completely made sense. But then you cannot blame. You know, you've learned how to have feelings.
Yes.
And that's such a weird thing. You know, like I say, I think in the chapter that it's like a mirror being dropped on the floor, and you have to pick up the right pieces and make another mirror. You know what I mean? Just so you can look at the real self.
And when you do, you see yourself rather as disjointed, but we need to understand that really is who we are. We are many pieces trying to come together.
Exactly.
And you know, sometimes there's pieces that need to be left on the floor. And then other pieces go back together. And yes, there's the distortedness. But then that is life in many ways. It's very, very distorted.
Oh, yeah. And then you end up going, you know, I went to, I don't know, several psychologists, psychiatrists over the years, you know, trying to get through this or that or, you know, horrible, whatever it was. But then my husband 4 years ago had to end up in the hospital. We thought he was having a heart attack. It ended up being AFib. But at the time, what it did was it sort of clotted all that like into, you know, a hay bale, and reminded me now of what's wrong with what's left. What didn't I deal with? You know, what's still there.
Yeah.
And I was 54 at the time. I don't want people to wait as long as I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see people being able to deal with their problems and have a better life for a longer time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the premises of the whole self-discovery media. We're all on a journey in life, but if you can learn from the wisdom and the knowledge from others, it just means you're taking that with you in your backpack and you're more prepared for what is to come, that state of being. A lot of people who have it, you know, including me, go, you know, why was I dealt this hand? And a lot of the time that we're dealt this is because it is to discover our strength and our courage and our abilities, to empathize with others, to put us in a state of place where we can actually understand what other people are going through and then be of service to them. So sometimes I think it's not like, why did I get it, but what is it for?
Right.
Where is it leading me?
Right. It's definitely, and it's a time. It's so funny how the time, you know, works out for different people. For me, I had to go through, I mean, I wanted to write a book for years, but never did. But there was I felt like there was always no ending, you know.
Yes.
No way to end or complete that part
of
my life. And so finally I thought, you know, and you think about people writing their autobiographies that are famous, you know what I mean? But I think a lot of people do, especially when they go through recovery.
Yeah.
or whatever, because there's pain.
And it's, why do we listen to these stories? Because it reflects something within inside us.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the biggest problems we have in going through or getting over something is facing it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
very often we're just too scared to face it. And you know, a lot of addiction, no matter what it is, whether it's opioids or anything else, it could be chocolate, could be coffee, could be sex, could be exercise. You know, when we do things excessively and really have to do them, then we know that there's a driving force behind that. That is much deeper. And the only way to get through it is to face it and ask, what is driving me this way? And in your case, it was the childhood abuse.
Yeah.
Most certainly that set you off on that path. Your mother being bipolar, you having some struggles yourself. How much of that struggle came from just not feeling you didn't belong? You know, what was afflicted on you? You know, you were being reactionary, right?
Right. Right. And became, and I mean, truly, if my kids would have given me a quarter, an eighth of what I gave back to my grandmother and mother, you know, anybody, there's so much anger, you know. And when I
Yeah.
went to rehab, I remember them asking, you know, everybody was talking and they'd already been there. I was pretty much the only new person. And I sat there for a couple of days and they didn't really, you know, bother me too much. But I sat with my feet up, you know, and my arms crossed.
Defense mode. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And, you know, when you see people like that, when I see them now, I'm like, whoop, you know. And so I basically, he got mad at me actually and said, look, you have to put your feet flat on the floor and you have to unfold your arms. I understand now today, obviously, and did when I left there.
Yeah.
Why? But at that time I said, I can't. I mean, literally, I felt like I couldn't physically do that. And he said, why not? And I said, because I feel like my guts are going to fall out on the floor.
Yeah.
There's just too much right now. You know, there's just too much
wanting to come out, and what else is going to come out with it, you know?
Right, exactly. It's like word vomit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Once you start talking, you just keep.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, when, you know, I was arrested to get into recovery, I wrote my own prescriptions. The doctor had written me prescriptions for a certain amount of time, and then I began to write my own in several different counties. And probably maybe 4 years ago, if I would have gotten the full amount of counties, I would just be getting out.
Yeah.
I would have missed my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, my adulthood, my kids' childhoods, my grandkids. And I just told him when I got there, you know, when they finally wanted me to do a writing sample, of course, I said, you know, it's me. You know, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. It was a job.
Yes. Yes.
Taking 100 Percocet a week is a job.
Yeah.
You know, full time.
Yeah.
Along with your full-time job, and then hiding it, and
Yes.
then hiding the bottles, and it's just like alcoholism. And so, you know, once I got to that point, he was really, really good. There is always one person that helps you.
Yes.
And if
the shift changes, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I could be that one person for one person.
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled.
Yes.
You know, and I do get written to on my blog, you know, on my page and my blog, you know, about people who they're just getting into recovery and they're not sure what to do and they don't know, you know, how to handle it, or am I going to be okay? Or, you know, and I always tell them it's second by second, you know, you have to take the pressure off of yourself. You cannot expect yourself to know what to do right when you start.
You go through the process, and the
Yeah.
process is different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's ritualized.
Yeah.
It's like smoking. I smoked for years. And when you smoke, you have a ritual. You get up in the morning, you smoke. You vacuum the floor, you clean the house, and you want a break. I'm taking my smoke break, right?
Yeah.
And that's all ritual. And then when you don't have it, then you're like, whoops.
I'm flapping in the wind, yes.
I don't have that anymore. What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I, my husband, funny.
That's okay.
But it just, I hear these things from people that are identical, and some people are going to see somebody, and I stayed in longer than the judge asked me to. I did urine analysis longer than the judge asked me to, and it was because it made me feel safe.
Yeah.
That was the only place that I knew, except for AA, that I could go to be safe. The problem with AA is mostly, and with, going back to the rehab, was they're sick too.
Yes.
They're getting well too. And so, you kind of have to remember that we're all in the same boat.
Right. Yeah, I remember I think I mentioned this in our last show, going to a fibromyalgia clinic. A friend dragged me along. She said, "Don't say anything, Sarah, just watch." And so I watched how this guy, with all the people around him, and he was a recovering addict of something, I can't remember what, but, and, I know it hurts. Oh, I know how much pain you're in. And what he was doing is, there was no optimism. There was no, upbeatness, nothing. It was feeding the pain. It was feeding the sorrow. It was feeding everything else. And I felt that his addiction was trying to be the hero for them.
Right.
And eventually I just had to say something. I couldn't,
Yeah, I know exactly.
because I felt everybody was going to walk out so depressed, feeling hopeless and helpless. But, we know that the teachers that have gone through the process are the best teachers, the people that have gone through the best teachers. And we look at, addicts as being the best teachers for other addicts because you've gone through it. But that's only if it's not a transference of addiction.
Right. Only if you're not still in the addiction until you turn that into another addiction.
Yes.
There were people like that, and I met my husband in AA. And they always said, 2 addicts, not a good thing, blah, blah, And we've been married for 22 years and together for 25.
Right. Exactly. You proved them wrong.
Exactly. And what the thing about it is that he was 10 years sober before, we ever started dating. I was the new girl, but I gave myself the amount of time they told me to. And what I find is, a meeting is 2 people. You don't have to have 10.
Yes.
You have 2. And if the 2 people understand what each other's gone through, then it helps you through, problems that come up. Well, that's what he does. And that's what I do.
But that's the thing, you recognize the triggers. So you know when to step in. I mean, this is why you see people who are actors very often marrying in the acting world. It's such a precarious industry, and it has no time schedule. And you need somebody who understands that. If somebody is left at home that's just kind of going through what people presume is normal, and then somebody who is going through something, how can you comprehend? How can you comprehend that? So it helps to have some. I've been there. I know what it's like. I know what the temptations are like. I know what we need to do right now. And it's being that support for each other. Because I think for a lot of addicts, they think that the pain will always come back. The anguish will always come back. But also for a lot of people who get high, it's escapism, it's a release, but it's also kind of that happy place. And they don't think they can ever find happiness without it.
You're right. And when you're really not happy, it's a false, it's a screen.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that's so true is you you begin to believe that you have to have it. And once you do that, you forget, but the whole time you're lying.
Yes.
You lie to yourself. You lie to the family. You lie to the neighbor. You lie to everyone on a dime. I mean, literally, you can come up with a lie and remember it.
Yes.
I mean,
and then how do you know what the truth is anymore? You're so busy living in the lies, you don't know, how do you keep track of your lies? Are you now completely delusional, living in your own lie because you don't know what the truth is?
That's right. And then you think, well, I can get through it this way, but you cannot.
No.
No. I mean, I got raped as an adult by a family member. You only can keep that down for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And then it just comes up, and that's it.
And the thing is, I hate to tell people this, it will always come up in some form or other. I was raped 51 years ago. There is, although I'm not going to look at every man as a rapist, you're always kind of looking for the triggers or looking for what's the intention. And that's a form of protection, right? It's not that I don't feel love worthy or I know that somebody can't love me. It's that there's always in the back of your mind, can I see it this time? How do I protect myself? What is this person's agenda? And, and that's that defense mode that is part of our physical DNA.
And I think that we start to develop some sort of a sixth sense.
Yeah.
You can see that person coming, and you're like, nope. You know what I mean?
There's a neon sight above his head of what he wants.
It's not like I'm reading Nora's or anything. You just know you're not. No.
But that's the same with an addict too, isn't it? There are some addicts that just want to go and kind of shoot up or do it on their own. Or there are other addicts that want to get high with somebody else. Like, come on, don't worry, man. No, I'm giving it up. No, come on, one more time. And this is why they say that if you are going through recovery of any kind, whether it's just, going through a divorce, a career change, addiction, no matter what you're going through, separate yourself from the people you know. And in a lot of ways, go into that isolation and start listening, loving, and learning yourself from the inside out. And then when you come back out of that, you'll look at, no, that person's bad for me. I have to stay away from this person. And these are the type of people I want to bring into my life. But you can't do that while you're in the midst of it.
No, because you don't see it.
No.
And I think, the people who go through it, whether it's fibro, whether it's addiction, whatever it is, we're the experts, basically, only because we've been there. We've had to deal with it. And if, like you say, with somebody trying to, kind of use their problems and their feelings to sort of project onto someone else, they're not handling their stuff yet, and so sometimes you do have to say, whoa, or I'm not going back to this one because I know this guy's going to be there, and
that's self-preservation and self-care, isn't it?
And now with COVID, I mean, with the cases of COVID, you have the addiction, I'm medicated and I still get depressed.
Yes.
Like you would with bipolar disorder, but not as bad.
But that's also very much part of the fibro.
Yeah, it runs a circle.
Yeah. I mean, the fibro has 31 different points to it under the umbrella. I've got 29 of them, so and it is a balancing act. And why are you depressed? I am physically depressed, right? It's not that I'm emotionally depressed. It's not that I don't like where I am and what I'm doing or who I am. It's the physical depression, because that's part of the disease that just takes you into sadness. And so I imagine that if you're an addict on top of that, and, like I say, I'm addicted to sugar. I mean, not sugar, chocolate.
Oh, flour and sugar had a personal relationship for a long time.
And of course, it's got on my coffee every day, right? But it's all under control. But it's how do you manage that when you know, your fibromyalgia or your bipolar. I mean, they're fighting with each other. It's a
They
seesaw
do.
all the time. And that, you know, it'd be so much easier just to pop something and go, okay, you two fight it out. I'm abstaining from this.
That's
But
right.
you can't do that.
No, and you know, I remember when I got diagnosed with fibro, they I was just I was just done. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I was tired, the pain was bad. They wanted
Yes.
me to quit working. I couldn't at the time, blah blah, you know, went on. And they put me on painkillers. And I told them, I said, look, I was on Percocet. Do not put me on that.
Yeah.
That was my drug of choice. Don't do it. We'll try this. And if I have any problems, you need to know what to do.
Yeah.
You need to know what this sign is. And, you know, I went through the whole thing, and my husband knows.
Yes.
So, you know, I did okay. I did fine. And then eventually I went, this isn't helping. This is not helping, because nothing helps some things, you know. So a lot of times you're better off to take the Advil or, you know, I hate to break everybody's heart, right? But an Advil or whatever.
Muscle relaxant or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. And currently I take Tramadol, which is like a synthetic, but you know what? That actually helps helps my feet more than anything, right? And they're really bad. That's a real bad spot. It is for a lot of people.
Sleep. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the curses of fibromyalgia, is that it doesn't matter how many hours sleep you get. You know, I've got a Fitbit, and I now measure my sleep, and I look at my pattern, and it's, you know, it's a deep sleep for 20 minutes, and then awake, and then light sleep. And like last night was just 6 hours. The night before was 6 hours of light sleep. And then I'll maybe get one where I actually get 3 hours deep sleep, which is fantastic, but never in a one go. It's all spasmodic. And people don't realize that you wake up because you're hurting.
Well, yeah, or you just can't sleep.
It's
all day I can
yeah.
sleep, you know. I'm
No,
going,
I mean, I can't even do it then. The worst thing is constantly being tired, because it wears you down.
yeah, you are.
Your battery never ever completely recharges. You know, it's like a phone battery. After a while, it gives up because it can't hold the charge anymore. And I very often feel like that. And as I've said to you, and I put out a posting yesterday on Facebook, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
You know, and just to own it. And this has been me for the last actually few weeks. And, you know, part of it is at the back of the mind, the COVID, because being an asthmatic with fibromyalgia, I don't want to go anywhere near there. The uncertainty of life.
Yeah.
This is a dangerous time for people who have any form of disease, or have an addiction as a disease, because these are the times that it's like, oh, this is all just overwhelming. I just need this to help balance me out. And that's how you go back down the slippery road.
Exactly. And, you know, even someone like me with 25, 6 years, you know, I mean, years and years, it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
And if, you know,
it's like a gene in there, isn't it? An addictive gene. Yeah.
It is. It is. And I think it truly is, really. It runs in families. And,
yes.
you know, I just happened to be the girl who got it, not the boy. You know? But we, you know, you end up with I don't know, it's hard to say, but you end up, you know, with this. I have a brain freeze, and I don't even know why.
That's also part of fibro, brain farts. Brain fog, they call it.
So move on, but with the fibro, you have that, which is horrible. And then you ask your doctor, does your body ever get used to pain? And do you ever get, you know, can you just ever get used to it? And no, that's the answer. You know, no.
I think you learn to live with it.
Yeah.
Today I'm not in some form of pain. You know, the ratio of 1 to 10, you know, a really good day is 3 or 4. That's marvelous.
That's exactly what my days are when they're good.
Right. And a normal state of being will be a 7, and I'll have to admit lately it's been a 9. And
Oh, yes, yeah,
and I know things like EFT and meditation and good nutrition and aromatherapy and all of these things can help. But
yeah,
this is not something, as my specialist pointed out when he's one of the leading people in fibromyalgia, Dr. Asano, it is a disease that you can only manage. It's not like cancer or anything else you can cure. It won't necessarily kill you, but what it does is it weakens your state of being over time,
mhm,
and it becomes less manageable, but it's all about management completely. That's the
right,
same principle as it would be on addiction. It's
yeah.
all about daily management.
And somebody says to you, like, there are people, you have fibromyalgia, it's in your soft tissue, your muscles, blah, and they go to bed.
Yeah.
They literally take to
Yes.
not doing anything at
Yes.
all.
Give in.
That's the worst
Yeah.
possible thing. And then they start to lose muscle.
Yes.
And so I know of a couple people who actually have died. And this one of them was a younger guy, a younger man, like 30. And he wasn't on anything. They did an autopsy and he wasn't on, any painkillers or anything. But his
Gave
lungs
up.
gave out,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't, I guess, just couldn't do it anymore.
Right. And
So,
that's the thing is you made a good point. It's as they pointed out, everything we do, even around the household, taking a walk, anything around the household, everything we do is an aerobics for fibromyalgia.
oh
It's
yeah.
not the norm, it's an aerobics. But it's an aerobics that at least every couple of days we need to go and do something to move. Because
Hmm.
if we don't, we turn into cardboard. And then
Oh yeah.
everything is just like so stiffening.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how do I overcome this pain? And out come the pills to help take the edge off. And what can I do about it? But it basically, he described it as a hypersensitivity disease, because
Yeah,
everything
that's what
about
my
your body is heightened. So in that heightened sensitivity, where you literally are, I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel my body
I
shaking.
feel
I think
like I'm
there's
gonna,
yeah, it
lights on.
feels like an earthquake, and it's me's the earthquake. I've realized that it's not the tremor of the earth, it's me. I'm tremoring like an earthquake. And it's going, whoa, where did this come from? Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, and you think, I mean, at the end, the thing is, people will say, well, my feet really hurt, I don't want to walk.
Yeah.
Well, for me, if I'm on my feet, if my feet hurt, then I'm on the treadmill walking,
Yeah.
because it helps.
The circulation.
Yeah,
The simple thing is the circulation flowing through your body.
yeah,
With this COVID thing, I'm not getting out for my usual walks and
right.
doing the distance. So definitely the middle has spread. It's
Oh,
oatmeal, cookies, and chocolate.
yep.
It has definitely spread. But also, I'm not as loose as I should be, because I would be at least 3 or 4 days a week going out for a walk and moving it up. And I've actually become more busy than
Right,
I normally am
right.
through this time period. Um, and it's one of the worst things is to sit for long periods of time, which I'm doing. So,
Right. Yeah, no, it's hard.
yeah.
That's really hard. And that's what I did when I worked,
Yes.
in the
Yes.
mortgage business. So you're in the most stressful business in the world, right? Mortgages. And
Yes.
I got out the year that right before the crash of
Yeah.
the whole thing in 2008.
Yeah. Good time to
And I
get
was
out.
like,
Yeah.
thank you for, letting me at least make it that last 2 years.
Yeah. But
But
that is the thing, though. If you the addiction, the ill health, the challenges, all of that is one of the things we cannot put ourselves through is this stressful job. It's
oh,
just
it's
it's just
horrible.
going to turn that volume up on that pain and that whole discontent in our body, mind, and soul. This is why so many of us go on disability, because we simply cannot do that 9 to 5 job. You
No,
can't stand there for that length of time. You can't sit for that length of time. You don't know what your days are going to be like.
no,
You've got some days where you're completely crippled. And so
no.
it makes it very hard. But it is good, though, to be engaged. And you're definitely engaged, like the writing of the book. You've got your other book coming out, being written right now, and you're very proactive with the work that you do. And you just have to do it based on the energy you have in the day.
That's right. And that helps. I
Yes.
mean, you kind of wish that, I would have done that the whole time,
Yes.
I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue because I literally couldn't get off the couch, and I had two kids, that were in school. And so when I went, he's like, well, you have chronic fatigue. But then, I mean, the cholesterol was ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, so then they tried to blame it on,
Yeah.
they didn't know what to do with me. So again, I ended up going back to exercise, and that really helps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really did. And not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is about the physical, it's generating the oxygen throughout your body. We need to be in flow, not stagnation. The fibro part of it wants you to stagnate. Wants you just to stay still, where everything is so hard to move. Everything is painful to move. But the more we move, the more supple we make ourselves.
That's right.
And the less pain that we're in, even though it might be painful to start off. So we've got to find something.
Right.
Swimming, walking, treadmill. It's not go out and play, 6 rounds of tennis. No,
that's not. No matter how much you can walk on the treadmill. But I had one lady say, I wish I could walk on a treadmill. And, so a lot of people, they can't, or they think they can't, or they don't want, exercise is not for everybody.
Right.
But we all have some sort of, like you said, we all have some sort of exercise.
Yes.
But if you don't do anything at all, that causes pain, which causes depression, which causes pain. Yes. And it's this cycle of craziness, whether you have a mental disorder and you're depressed anyway, tend to be that way, or if you're not.
Yeah.
So the whole thing. And the funniest thing was, not funny, haha, I guess, but I had the addiction, the mental health at the same time.
Yes, which most people do with the addiction. It's not being able to cope with things that puts them down the addiction because of the mental health.
That's right.
Yeah.
And mania is, with bipolar disorder, you have mania. Now, my mom had dysphoric mania. That was the bad kind. And then it would flip, and it would be a good kind. But when she was in the bad, oh God, she was a nightmare. And still, I can't even talk. I don't talk to her anymore. I can't. Nobody does. It's just, But you just, the mania is such a feeling. It's like taking a drug,
Yeah.
And your kids sometimes think you're, what a fun mom you are. You wake me up at 10:30 at night and we drive to Iowa, and that's not even stretching the truth. We did, and I'm like, why, the stuff you would do is crazy. It's crazy.
And irrational to them, but irrational to everyone else. And that's the thing. Don't try and impose your reason on somebody that's living in that irrationale. Right? It's to try and steer them back, to turn that corner back into the rationale. But, one of the things I'm sure you hate as well is when people say, snap out of it. Just think positive feelings and you will be all right. Your fibromyalgia is all your fault. And it's like, we're just going to stop right there because it's not worth the argument. No. And we've got to understand that having these challenges are simply that. They're challenges to balance in life. And we can't put blame game or shame game on anyone.
No. And, my daughter, she understands, and she's like, well, Mom, you can't be in pain every day. I said, yes.
Yes.
I am.
Yeah.
And some days it's a 3. You live on a pain scale.
Yes.
Some days it's a 3, some days it's a 5, and I used to live in a complete 5 consistently all the time. I figure a 3 is pretty good,
Yes.
Yes,
I haven't been there for a while.
And it's funny because, we have the weather changes.
Yes.
The barometer.
Yes.
I'm a barometric walking barometer. I can tell we're going to have a storm. I asked my husband, what's the weather going to be like this week? I feel so bad,
Mm-hmm.
And then I literally will sleep for 6 hours, but it's never deep sleep. I don't
Yeah.
know how much that I ever get.
Yeah. No, my son bought me the Fitbit, and it was very interesting to watch the pattern, and how much just surface sleep I get, and the deep sleep. And if I get a 3-hour deep sleep, I'm hallelujahing. I really am.
I
Um,
never thought of the Fitbit.
yeah, no, it's good for that. It also tests your heart rate. And also it shows you how many steps you walk a day. And that's the thing. Oh, you're doing your 10,000 steps? No, I couldn't do 10,000 steps.
No.
In my marathon walk would be 5,000 steps.
Yeah.
That is enough for me.
Take me a day and a half to do.
and if I can do, 2,500 a day, that's great. Most days I can't, but if I can get out and even do, 1,000 or 2,000, it's better than nothing.
Right.
But, I was once or twice a week doing the 5,000, which I'm not doing now, because I would pace myself, walk into town. If I'm here in Victoria, right by the waterfront, go do my shopping, and then go somewhere for a cup of tea or coffee and a little bite, and then I would bus back and then walk from there. And that was enough, because you have to pace yourself. So whatever you're going through in life is know your own routine, your own system, and how to pace yourself. Again, it all comes back down to that management, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and I think like I was competitive in sports in school. Track was my thing. So I can't just be happy, to walk on the treadmill at 57. I have to start with, walking on the treadmill, and then I get bored, and then I start running and jogging and doing weights. And then you wear yourself out.
Yes.
Twice a week is all you can, that's all you can do. You can physically not do anymore.
Right.
And so I bought a treadmill.
Good for you. I've got nowhere to put it, unfortunately, and I prefer to kind of get out there in nature than force me to do that. But
in the rain, it makes it a little easier because we have so much rain.
Yes, exactly. My girlfriend in her 70s, before this COVID happened, was doing aquatics 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah,
and when I visited her, I'd go along. And I realized that I could do the stretching exercise, I could do that. I couldn't do any of the jumping. So when they started getting into that type of thing, I would just go and do lengths at my own pace. And then go into the hot tub and let that massage me. And I would be completely beat after that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if you have this. It's one of the things that they put up there, when you see like the sign for fibromyalgia, and then it tells all the different things. And one of them is heat intolerance or cold intolerance. And literally, if the house changes, my fingers will turn white. And that's called Renault or something like that. It's some sort of weird disease. But it goes along with, all the other stuff. But heat intolerance.
No, that I don't have. What I do is after being in the chair, and I just went and bought myself a back cushion and a seat cushion memory foam to be more comfortable, and it's supporting my back better than, because before I was more hunched, and this is supporting it now. But what I do every night, because I share an apartment with a senior lady, is I go and get on my bed to watch TV, and I have a heating pad. And just move it up and down my back, and people, no, you need ice, you need cold. No, I need heat. Heat is the only thing, other than either acupuncture, acupressure, or proper myofascial massage, is the only thing that will loosen things up. So again, know your body, know what works for you, try a few things out, and know what works for you.
Right. No, and that's another thing with COVID. Here we go. You can't, no acupuncture.
I've had some very good acupuncture that literally helped me quite considerably, but there's nothing right now. I would love a massage, but
yeah, I know. I've had to stop with my acupuncture.
Yes,
because they haven't been open.
Right.
No haircuts, no
Yeah,
nothing.
well, while people are worrying about haircuts, which, I'm looking like a shaggy dog now, believe me, I'm getting to that point, like, what do I do with it? It's just a thick lump, it's, we've got to realize that a lot of people that are going through this right now, who have faced the challenge of addictions or are living with any form of disease right now that they normally manage, it's about the manage of, my landlady's in the other room and she's calling me. Her phone pocket dials me for some reason. But it is about having to manage it within these parameters. Yeah. And, you are vulnerable. You don't want to get sick. You don't know how it's going to affect you, if you're in and around it. You have to keep your distancing, but you need to get out in the sunlight and in the warmth and in everything else. It's important. But how can you adjust your way of thinking, your way of doing things, and everything else during this time? Because there is, as I said, that back of the mind that I'm being cautious, I'm being sensible, I'm not feeding into the disease, but at the same time, you can feel it kind of trying to catch up with you. Yeah. So it's trying to keep up beat on that. Are you finding that a challenge that you've got to change the way you do things because you're not getting access to what helps?
Oh, definitely. The acupuncture is murder, not having it.
Yeah.
And she does something kind of interesting. And, when, back in Henry VIII's day, you heard about bleeding people.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, they literally
cupping.
would,
Cupping.
chop their arm up. Yeah. And she does like an acupuncture type, where because you end up with pressure. People who don't do acupuncture, it's hard to understand. Yeah. I know, but there's certain places in your body that hold all this pain and stuff.
Yeah, they call it blocked G, blocked energy.
Mm-hmm. Right, and you can feel it. If
yeah.
Going long enough, you can feel it. And so she'll put a needle in there, and after she does that, and I leave, it's like, whatever was stuck.
Yes. But so it's releasing the body. Yeah.
Everything's stuck now, and
yes,
and then you've got the anxiety, and here we go again with regular people and bipolar people, and then you have bipolar people, which we're a nightmare when it comes to anxiety too.
And then that temptation, I'm just going to do this, it'll make me feel better, and to make sure that that habit that makes you feel better doesn't become habitually bad for you.
Yeah. And it's hard. It is hard to stay away from, like you were saying, chocolate and stuff.
Yeah.
Chocolate for even an addict they always say chocolate's a really bad thing. That's something that you eat a lot of. And my husband did for a long time. Ate tons of, Hershey's Kisses or something. So now, if I'm going to, I have to do really dark chocolate.
Yes, that's with me. Yeah. Dark chocolate covered cranberries or ginger or peanuts, or dark chocolate is mostly what I eat. Yeah. And you also don't need to eat as much of it. So it's not like I'm gouging chocolate bars, but I do like to have some chocolate at the end of the day, and that dark chocolate is better for you. So because we've got to be careful how much sugar we put in our body, because it's not good for our body.
Right.
So on anybody's level, whether you're healthy or unhealthy, but it's not good for us. And so obviously there's other amazing women in this book as well. Do you know what else they're writing about?
There's 13 stories, and there's all different kinds of people who've gone through really something tragic, had to get over it, whatever it was for them.
Yeah.
And especially in chapter 2, that chapter is from an African woman, and she talks about the mutilation that the women go through. And you don't think about stuff like that
Yes.
if it doesn't happen. And then, you hear about somebody getting through that and then helping other people, you know, so they don't have to go through it or whatever.
Yeah.
Every story.
It's genital side, I've done a couple of shows on that, whether it's boys being circumcised or girls, clitoris literally being cut off.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very big in certain African cultures, also in Arab countries as well. It's been banned now, but
Mm-hmm.
in most countries, and even in the countries that practice it a great deal, but there's still the underground that keeps doing it, and
Right.
it's extremely painful. A lot of people do not survive it, uh,
No.
and
No.
it's mutilation, pure and simple.
Yeah. And then they think it's normal, and
Yes.
it's the you hear stories about it, but then when you actually are in the same book with someone,
Yeah.
and like, I have not gotten a chance to talk to her, but there's been a few women that I've gotten close to, and you don't ask them what their story is before the book comes
Right.
out. But then you start to read it, and every single story in here is something that I think every single person needs right now.
Yes.
Everything is so negative, and
Mm.
everyone's sick, and nobody
Mm.
can do anything. And I know that it's a hard time to purchase a book. you know, I mean, it's not like, you have money laying around the
Right.
house, you know.
It
Um,
has to look at it as a heart investment.
yeah. And we've made it quite high. Well, quite low, I guess it would be on the top 100. We were moving up,
Yeah.
and that's really good. I
Yes.
I'm happy because in this book someone's going to find
Yeah.
something that has got something to do
Right.
with
Well, it's, they'll find that chapter that speaks to them.
them.
This
Yeah,
is my story.
right.
How did you get through it? I relate to this. And in your particular story, how many women have gone through child abuse, sexual abuse, um, abuse by a parent with mental disorders,
Mhm.
and also then have it yourself, which sometimes could have lain completely dormant if you had a happy childhood and never come out, but it comes out through the trauma, and then it's your burden for the rest of your life. And we need to talk about that because we need to empower ourselves to saying that is what we have. This is what happened to us. This definitely had something to do with who I am today.
Right.
But I am in charge of who I am today and who I
What
will
do
be
I
tomorrow.
do?
Yeah.
What do I do with that?
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes it just seems like a big pile of mess.
Mhm.
But once you can sort it out, you know, everybody has a story. And I think the people who have a lot of people I will hear from are mothers of kids
Mhm.
or young adults who have problems.
Yeah.
And, they don't know how to they don't know what to do.
Well, you're giving them some insight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all I can really do is tell them, you're going to see this. But if they're over 18, you know, if they quit talking, which they may very well, if they're in a deep, or they're going to lie.
Yeah.
They're going to cry, they're going to tell you they need to live. It's horrible for parents to have to go through that.
Yeah.
Somehow, maybe through telling my kids what and having them be part
Mm.
of my recovery, maybe that helped them, because in at least my kids and my grandkids, that cycle was broken
Yeah.
finally.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that's
And so necessary. It reminds me of Tracy McGee, whom I interviewed years ago, and she's kind of a grief counselor, and she comes almost kind of from the hillbilly type family, and they were
right.
all alcoholics. And at 15, she was given a drink. And she made a conscious thing at that time not to pick it up and drink it, because she looked at everybody else being drunk and decided that was going to be me. She lost 10 family members to alcoholism. She managed to get her father straight for a while, but he went right back into it and died. And that's the thing, we've got to understand that sometimes it's not just life event on it, it's genetically imposed in there. It's psychologically in your programming. And she changed that shift and decide to go down another road. And when it comes to it, whatever we're dealt, whatever we're around, whatever might be genetically in us, we have to look at ourselves at some point and go, not my way, I'm going to carve my way out for myself.
Right. And people, you know, especially parents, they always think it's their fault.
Yes.
It's my fault. What did I do wrong? What? Nothing.
Yeah.
You did nothing wrong. It could be a gene that's it could be, but
and you don't know what they're dealing with. Like your mom was bipolar. You didn't know what she's dealing with. And the parent she was going to be at the time was based on what she was dealing with.
Right. And I thought to myself, you know, how could the birth of one child make a dysfunctional family, you know, completely crazy?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it seems like when I was born, it was just this, you know, explosion of just nuts. And, you know, the things that you had to say, the constant lying. Where did I learn how to lie?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Every day. Yeah. Every single day.
Yeah.
And when there was something that I could do or something that I wanted to do, of course, I would do something stupid and get in trouble. But, you know, those things were always taken out of my hands. So you have no power. You know, your power is always taken away, you know, and I'm not crying about that. It's just, that's the truth. So, of course, if you're going to have problems, you know, of course, it's going to be funner. You want to be more rebellious. You want to do more and more and more. And you don't care if you hurt yourself. You're not afraid.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to write a prescription, even though I had 2 kids and husband and house. And, you know, I literally was not afraid.
No, because you'd made some perfect excuses for yourself.
Well, yeah.
You could justify it.
Yeah. I'm never going to get caught. I'm never, you know, there's only 2 ways out of this, you know, of the disease. You either die or you get better.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And even if you just get part of the way better and then you continue to work on that, it's better than the opposite direction.
Right. And it's learning to live with a different norm. You know, it's learning to live in awareness, learning to live in gratitude, you know, being in tuned with oneself. You know, I can feel, I can get those days where, you know, I'm on, I think it's Prozac, I think I'm on. Myself, I finally succumbed to that. Because I just couldn't cope anymore, and everything else I tried had adverse effects, and this seemed to agree with me. And there are those days where it's like, oh, okay, is it going to be a 2-pill day? And then it's not, just take a breath, you're fine, you can get through this, hit a B17, you know, or B3 to 6 complex, you know. One tip I will give though is that I had run out of magnesium and D. And
magnesium is something I have to take.
Yeah, and my body went into complete trauma. And then when I went back onto the magnesium with turmeric and also vitamin D, changed things around quite considerably. So that's another thing, is that your body is working harder for you, and it's working at a very high stress level, and you do need those certain nutrients in there to help it. Magnesium and D are very, very important.
And I take both of them.
Yeah. Yep. And the turmeric is great because it works beautifully with the magnesium.
Now that I've never taken, but
because it's really good at anti-inflammatory. So it's really good on that. So, you know, do your investigation of what you need to balance yourself out. You know, it's okay to be hitting it. It's not just, please, folks, I'm the first person to say that positive thinking equals positive living. But that doesn't mean you can think it away. And that purely positive thoughts is, and now you don't have anything. All the positive thoughts are doing is giving you the tools and the skills and the ability to manage what you have in a better light.
Right. But it, a lot of people say, well, they're not FDA approved. It doesn't matter.
No,
I'm telling you.
no, come on, this is nature. Nature's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Yeah.
So I just can't say enough about the people out there who understand it. When you meet someone or a naturopath or anybody who understands what you're going through, and they can tell you, well, you need to get off sugar.
Yeah.
That's what's making you, And so I was drinking soda.
Right.
I got off of soda, went to like soda water, no calories. Boom, started losing weight.
Yeah.
And then started taking, magnesium, glycinate. There's so many different kinds.
Yeah.
That's good for pain. And, I literally, everything that they've thrown at me, I've tried.
Yeah.
And some of it works and
some of it didn't. And then, the thing is, there's some fundamentals like, lots of vitamin D and magnesium for fibromyalgia people is important. I take vitamin C every day as well. And then 2-3 times a week, I take the B. And I take the OCB oil, which I've just started. And you've got to, those are fundamentals, because we know those work on all people with fibromyalgia. But at the same time, your dosage is going to be, experiment with it. What makes you feel good? Are you feeling bad today? Can you increase that dosage there to help you ride through a bad day? But be in tune with yourself. One of the reasons why we have addictions and why we run to Band-Aid everything is because we're not willing to have that conversation with self. And when you have that conversation with self and you really go, okay, where is this coming from today? Is it the weather? Moisture in the air? That's a killer. Yeah, right. Is it I've listened to too much news? Have I overdone it? Am I eating properly? Am I getting as much sleep as I can? And if to no to any of those things, okay, address that. Do something about it.
Exactly. And, you never know what's going to work for one person, doesn't work for the other. And they say, in this world, everybody,
yes,
is consistently trying to fix something, or they need to.
There's a lot that need to that aren't acknowledging it.
There's a few here that could use it. Yeah. But it's difficult because they always say we've got the worst problem. Every country that has access to that, and England, I'm sure they have issues.
Oh, and they haven't been doing as much isolation or anything, and then cases are increasing. Right. And other countries that had it really down pat but came out too early and now increasing. Mm-hmm. Of course, the States is an absolute hot mess. And I'm very proud of Canadians saying, no, we're not opening our borders yet. No. You haven't got it under control. We're getting it under control. And the last thing we need is second wave coming from there. Yeah. And all right, I know we're all frustrated. I know that it's putting a lot of strain on us. We can't get the acupuncture, can't get the massage, can't get the treatments we need. But it's just like, be strong. You'll ride through this, because the alternative to get out there, all these people that say it's a hoax. There was a pastor of a church who had 1,000 people in there. God will protect me. He's dead. And how many of his congregation is dead? This is a killer. It's a silent killer. And it kills people in so many different ways, or injures them in so many different ways. And we don't know enough about it just to turn our noses up at it. And it's the same with fibromyalgia. People look at you and you look healthy. Well, I don't see anything wrong with you.
Yeah.
Right? Am I meant to have a limb dangling off somewhere?
I was going to say Yeah, exactly. I have fibromyalgia. I haven't been to the war. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it's a war. It's a daily war.
Yeah.
It is a daily war.
Fight, but it's different.
Yes, exactly.
The enemy you're fighting is your own body, because it's fighting you back.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, there's, the COVID is something that I feel bad for my grandkids having to be not be able to finish school, or
Yeah.
the seniors not being able to graduate, and people just, dying. And then they say, oh, well,
Just a statistic.
if I could, I'd give up my life for my no. The guy that just talked would not. I
Right.
know, I've heard him,
Yes.
he's not giving up his family
Right.
for,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And and what is this? We've reached an old age in which is Soylent Green, everyone. Look it up,
we're
folks. Soylent Green movies. Look at them. The thing is that we've earned our time now. We've earned, what we're doing now because we've worked for it. We've toiled for it all our lives, and this isn't a time that's go, you're old and dismissed. It's not a Logan's Run. It's this is makes people more vulnerable. But what I'm delighted to see is how many people in their 90s and the hundreds have had COVID and beaten it. And
Well, and you think about those people, they're our history.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, the young kids are our future.
Yeah.
But the older people are our history.
Yes.
And when you hear about an older person that, maybe a star, whether it's a singer, whether it's somebody who you knew that was a writer or a politician, anybody who you had respect for. When you hear about them dying from, this disease, and to say kids couldn't get it, and now kids get it.
And very viciously, because it's coming out of them in a different way.
Yeah. So, the older people deserve everything that any other person deserves.
Yes.
I wouldn't have wanted to get rid of my great grandmother. That's where I learned all the history of my family. That's why, I can do, ancestry studies and find out, what did my relatives do. It's interesting to find out,
It's part of who you are.
Yeah.
It's a part of your DNA. There is the series called Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
And what was the name of the actress? Kate something, comedian. She used to have the big bouffant hair. Anyway, Kate Siegel.
Yeah.
And she just did one the other day, and to find out that actually she comes from a long line of Amish and peace givers.
Yeah.
And she's a peace activist herself, right? And didn't realize, that core value, even though she didn't know her ancestors, is still very much instilled in her.
Sure. I mean, we were Quakers. I'm like, Quakers, what, and then they turned into something else and start towns, and you don't know any of that.
Right.
I knew nothing about that. And when I got my DNA tested, there was people contacting me who were actually relatives of mine that I didn't know. I had no idea. And my great grandmother, she was the one who pretty much was probably the only saving grace I had, but she died before I, started taking the drugs.
Right.
But, I always wondered, and this is something that people probably think, well, I'll never have fun again. If I quit drinking or, whatever, I'm never going to be able to go to a party again. Let me tell you, when you go to parties after you're sober and you watch people, trust me, you can have more fun at that party watching these people, because you're like, oh did I act like that?
Did he just say that? Did she just do that? Is she going to remember this in the morning?
And you're going to have one hangover.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not,
Yes. Yeah.
And you can have just as much fun. It's just that you actually start to get irritated.
Yes.
When they drink too much, because they get,
well, the true colors comes out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And so then you get to the point where you're like, I don't mind going out at all,
right.
know. But I mean, now I don't. But when I was young, I got to the point where it didn't bother me to go anywhere, But I remember all the times that I went when there was no way I was leaving there sober.
Right.
And half the time I didn't know how I left there anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because that's again part of that escapism, into oblivion, right? And, I was saying, a drunk will find happiness along the way to finding drunk misery, but you're too drunk to remember it.
Yeah. No, I've wrecked cars and not known, did I hit a person?
Right?
Or did I hit a guardrail? What,
Yes.
really, truly, what did I hit? Falling asleep in an intersection and having somebody take me in an alley and try and rape me.
Right.
Put my car in neutral so that I didn't know why my engine would work, but my car wouldn't. And, it goes on and on and on. And then you keep telling yourself, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore. And yet, what are you doing next weekend?
Right.
All week. Any day you can.
Yeah. Yeah. When do you hit that rock bottom where it's enough is enough, I'm going to change directions, which of course we do discuss in our first show, which I invite people to go back and listen to.
Yeah.
And, it's, it's on the fibromyalgia, obviously, but it's also about, surviving fibromyalgia, but it's also on your journey that where you share that and everything. So you invite people to go back and listen to that as well. And so is the book out already?
Yeah.
Excellent. And how do people get it?
Yeah. And let me see if I can get it over here. This cover, actually, there's a story behind it. One of the women in here, her husband had died just not very long before the book needed to have a cover. And so that's his favorite place.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
Each and every part of this book and the series of books that'll come out after this, maybe Simply Amazing. I think he wants to do Simply Amazing, like nurses and doctors and firefighters after this, and children, later. It's one of those things where, no matter what age you are, that you have a story. Everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And I was asked to be in this, and it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
It truly is. And like I said, if you don't like the third chapter, go to the fourth. Go to the fifth.
Read the third chapter, folks. I read most of it the other day, and even though I've interviewed it before and we've talked often, there were still some things I didn't know there. And that's the thing is, what we've been victimized, by, doesn't mean that we have to still stay a victim. And we can't outrun ourselves. We always catch up with ourselves. And when we actually understand we're all simply amazing, and what we're trying to do is step into our awesomeness, then we understand, what the process is all about, and we get on and do it. So, people, it's by Casey Armstrong, Simply Amazing Women, and it's at Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble, and once I can get, I think once everybody can get into, other bookstores to see.
Yes, it'll be there as well. And then how do people, I see there is, I have to put the glasses on, sorry, I go completely blind when so it's, you also may visit WMAPradio.com, Simply Amazing Women.
Yes.
And
they can order it. Actually, they can order it through there.
Right. And people get hold of you.
They can get hold of me. Yep. Yeah, Deb, these are all small. Deb-spot.com. And Deb Spot on Facebook. If you put Deb Spot in there, majority of the Deb Spots is going to come up me.
Right.
Whether it's page or whatever. I don't know if that's just not a name that.
Yeah. And people can also email you.
Oh, yeah.
At dmorgan45@gmail.com.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. And, you've got your LinkedIn and your Twitter and all of that, and official author site and everything else, which people can just come back and put in your name in here, and both of your shows will come up, and all your other information and everything. And people say, do you interview celebrities? Yeah, everybody I interview is a celebrity. because we're celebrating the journey that you were willing to take that now is an inspiration to someone else. So,
Right.
thank you for being so open and honest. There's a lot of people that even later in life would find, I know I can't talk about my addiction days. I worry about how people
I want to
will look
forget
at me, and I've got this and I've got that, and people, well, how can you even cope with one, never mind all of them? And yet you're still very upbeat and it's very positive and working towards showing people how they can live no matter what their challenges are, and just get out there and enjoy life.
Yeah. Well, I hope I hope the book helps somebody with something.
Yes. Yeah, and you're not going to know until you either listen to these shows or you read the book. And that's to remember why it was written. It was written to inspire. It was written to invite other amazing women to step up and be awesome in their own lives.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I thank you for having me on.
A delight to have you back again, love. And, maybe get through these next weeks or months or whatever, the fibro land, and get back to a good massage or something.
I know. The next time I'll be on, hopefully it'll be when I have trapped out of me.
Yeah, yes.
Another complete and utter, another story then. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's just all about, what's in front of you, riding the wave, what's in front of you. And that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, truly.
Okay, love.
All right.
You take good care of yourself and everyone else out there. Your challenges are a part of your package in life, but they're not you. You're not fibro, you're not bipolar, you're not addict. These are the things that you went through, and some of them are going to stick around as a reminder. But we are so much more than that. So step into your awesomeness and read this amazing women, because we need to celebrate each other. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.